Hello and welcome to my new series of the Tessa Talks To podcast. Series 4, and in this series we're talking to busy city workers about what music means to them. Today I'm at Travers Smith, a law firm just off Smithfield, and I'm lucky enough to be talking to Charmaine Pollock, who's a senior associate here, who makes a lot of time in her week for music making, taking up clarinet and singing lessons. Hi Charmaine, thank you for talking with me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
What does music mean to you?
I think music means quite a few different things to me actually at different times. Primarily it's a really big source of joy for me, and it's a means of escape and release and particularly stress relief. But it's also a nice chance for me to exercise a part of my brain that I otherwise don't really get a chance to use that much. I think working in the legal sector, it's probably not one of those areas that you would traditionally class as being in the creative industries, even though there are elements of creativity to my role. But no, having a chance to actually be properly creative at times is a wonderful outlet.
And that's sort of activating the right side of the brain, isn't it? Because I imagine so much of what you do at work is logic and the left side of the brain. And it is really important to open up both sides of the brain and connect with creativity.
Exactly.
How do you feel after your lessons? Do you have a lesson twice a week
I do.
At the moment? And do you notice a difference in the afternoon or after your lessons in how you respond to work?
Yeah, I do actually. There have been so many times where I'm running around really busy. I arrive at my lesson in an absolute flap. And especially the singing lessons are particularly good for this because the first thing Eleanor says to me is, okay, breathe.
Yeah.
And then I have...
So kind of easy to forget sometimes,
exactly.
Isn't it?
And so I have half an hour where I'm doing concentrated breathing. Really, one of the things that's interesting about the lessons is I find I'm very much in the moment when I'm in the lessons. I don't think about work in that short window. And so I have a chance to just step out, have a bit of headspace, and when I then come back to my desk and I come back to my work, it's a bit like having a restart, and I feel fresher and my concentration is better. So I definitely notice it's the sort of thing that at times I think, oh gosh, I'm not sure I have time for this, but then having actually done that, it makes me better afterwards.
Yeah, definitely, because there's lots of other things to think about in the lesson, which you have to be thinking about, and so that is a way of just naturally stopping the stresses and all those to-do lists that back up, unlike maybe having a coffee where those to-do lists are still very much
waiting, weighted on your mind.
So when did music come to you? Was it part of your childhood?
It was, yeah. So my family is actually really musical. My great-grandfather was a violin teacher, and his daughter, my grandmother's sister, she was a child prodigy. So
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a book in South Africa on music in history in South Africa, and so my grandmother's sister's actually referenced in that book, and so it's always just been a fabric of growing up. And my grandmother played cello, and she'd practice for hours and hours until her fingers were almost raw. And my grandfather and I would sit listening to the wireless, and he would get me to try and identify what different instruments were playing in the pieces of music that we were listening to.
Yeah, what a great teacher to have, and in your grandfather to... Yeah. Was that in South Africa?
That was in South Africa, yes. But my mother as well, she played trumpet, and so as I was growing up, she had me doing all sorts of lessons, like organ and guitar and flugelhorn and singing.
Okay, so a big part of your childhood. It really kind of was a thread that continued.
And I was never particularly accomplished at any of them, but it was always just lovely having music in the house. And that was something that sadly actually sort of drifted away a little bit once I then started work, and I didn't then have the same level of access and input. And so
when did you move over to London? Was that when you lost that sense of musicality around your life? Or?
Yeah, so after I finished university, I lived in Australia for high school and university, and then I moved to London after that. And when I was at university, my grandmother gave me a clarinet, and so when I first moved here, I then took a couple of clarinet lessons, but it was quite difficult to fit it into the schedule because my teacher, she initially came to my house, but then she wasn't able to carry on, and I really struggled to then find another teacher who could do lessons either on the weekend or at times that would suit me. It's quite difficult to do it during the
and sometimes
week.
You don't actually want to give up time at the weekend when it's the only time you can actually fully switch off and not have commitments.
Exactly, something that's sort of locked into the diary. So so no, it took a little while, but and then obviously Music in Offices came along, which was
serendipitous.
Honestly, for years I'd been thinking about how I could make it work, and it just really has made a big difference.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, we love having you perform at the end of term concerts. Do you find that having that goal of performing at the end of each term is something that helps your focus and helps the sort of, because sometimes practicing can be quite lonely, but actually having something to work towards, both as a soloist, but also now you're a big part of the band class and the performance class. And how is that making music with others, sharing your music making, essentially?
I think it's actually really important, and it's one of the things that has helped to bring it all to life for me. The singing is something I've always felt a little bit more relaxed and comfortable about. The clarinet, I don't do as much practice as I ought to, but it is also one of those instruments where I have to think a lot more when I'm playing, and it's a bit scarier because you make a mistake, it sounds awful, and you squeak, and so having a chance to play clarinet at the band sessions, for example, which they've just been absolutely brilliant. They give you a chance to come and play with a group of people of all different levels.
Yeah, and just be part of
and
something in a really fun way, presumably.
Exactly,
and you get pressure.
A sense. Exactly, and you get a sense of where your instrument actually fits in the scheme of music. Because clarinet especially, it's not meant really to be played on its own. It sounds wonderful when it's accompanied by things, and to have that interaction.
Yeah, it has the harmony, and it's part of the bigger piece. And that's the same with, I guess, singing in a choir, because you sing so beautifully. And we'll hear, should we hear now maybe one of your performances from the end of term concert? Which one would you like to play?
Shall we go for Misty?
Yeah, let's listen to a little bit of you singing Misty at the summer concerts this year.
Yes.
I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. I feel misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play. Or it might be the sound of your hello, that music I hear. I get misty the moment you're near. You can say that you're leading me on, but it's just what I want you to do. Don't you notice how hopelessly I'm lost? That's why I'm following you.
Thank you, Charmaine. That was gorgeous. I love it when you perform at the end of term concerts. So heartfelt, and you really give us so much joy through your music making. So singing as a soloist is something we've just heard you do, but do you also sing as part of an ensemble, as part of a choir?
So Travers Smith has a choir that comes together a couple of times a year.
Okay.
And actually for a long time I didn't sing with them, partly because it had been so long since I'd done any singing that I felt probably a little bit inhibited.
It's such a vulnerable, exposing thing to do, isn't it? Especially with your colleagues.
Exactly. And we have some absolutely incredible singers here as well. So so it took me a while before I then joined in with the choir, and having done the lessons with Music in Offices, I then decided to sort of throw my hat in the ring.
Well, you're totally up there with them all. I mean, talking about amazing singers, they're lucky to have you, I think.
So no, I recently started with them last year. Was the best time, and it is great. It's a quick moving choir because we don't practice all year round, so we really only come together at Christmas time or when there's a summer concert and prepare at that point. And it is a different experience singing with other people because you do have to be more precise and more faithful to the music, and I think I'm probably a little bit guilty of being a little bit too
less interpretive, bringing your own interpretation to music, but within the whole, I guess, is important for a choir.
Exactly, and so that's been a good experience as well from a different perspective in terms of learning how to, again, coming back to making music with others, how to do it in a way that's coherent and works well.
And do you think it's more exposing doing it with colleagues who you know professionally and you might not know so much personally, but actually when you sing together quite quickly those barriers break down, don't they, and you actually gain this sort of community of trust between you and get to know each other in such a different way?
I think that's exactly right, and I think it can be easy at times to become a little bit siloed in your respective departments, especially if departments don't work together that much. Often we do, but not in all cases and not always regularly. And so actually to have an opportunity to meet your colleagues in a different context and to talk to them, it's such a great way to build that network. Yeah,
it's so social, and Travers Smith I think do that brilliantly through Soundsmith, your music society, and not only do you have concerts and you're supporting young musicians from Guildhall, but you have dinners, and I mean that's what music is about, isn't it? Bringing people together and coming together through a shared love of music.
Yes, no, so I think one of the things that's been just brilliant is all the buy-in and the support that we've had at a firm level for integrating music into the workplace. It makes such a fundamental difference to my life in a really important and significant and personal way. And I think to have a workplace that allows for that and that encourages that is just really incredibly special. And they've been brilliant. We have an agile working policy here as well, and I think that's part of it as well. The fact that you can intersperse in your day having music lessons, and then you do your work at other times, and it works. It does work really well, and it makes life better for us. And it's better for our mental health, and it's a great scheme.
Just adds to the culture, a different dynamic to the culture.
Exactly.
So when you're not practicing or having your music lessons, what piece of music do you listen to? Perhaps first of all, what piece of music do you listen to help you focus if you have a really stressful afternoon ahead and you've got so many things going on? What calms you down and helps you tick off that to-do list?
So years ago when I was at university, I read that apparently Baroque music is the best kind of music to really help you focus. And I don't know if that's true, but I think, it certainly works.
Classical. It's got all the filigree and the harmony, I think, helps. It's very intricate, Baroque music.
It is, and it just, I do find that it creates a little bit of a space around my head where I can then focus on whatever I'm doing, and it fills the space with positive sound and sort of blocks out all the distractions, and I find it works really, really well.
Is there one in particular, like Goldberg variations or something on the cello, or what
nothing particular. So Bach in general, that's usually, I have my Spotify, and so I usually do a search and then I just sort of let it run.
Okay, Bach's playlist.
Exactly, best of Bach. Exactly.
Can't go wrong. And what piece of music would you listen to escape, to kind of go to that desert island that carries you there?
So I think I have a playlist that I call my walking playlist, because it's the playlist that I listen to when I'm walking to and from work. And the sorts of things that I've added onto there have become for me the things that I associate with just calming down and relaxing and, you know, crossing Blackfriars Bridge and seeing the lights of the city and just sort of going,
dreaming a little bit.
Exactly. And the sorts of things that I have on there tend to be more upbeat. So I really, probably because of my mother's influence with her playing trumpet, I really like things with trumpet elements. And I like ska music with trumpet.
Okay, cool.
Aspects.
I love ska.
Yeah. So like Real Big Fish, The Cat Empire. And I like things that make me laugh a bit.
With humour and music feels good.
Exactly. So Tim Minchin's music.
Okay.
And also there's a funny little band that did an album called Evelyn.
Okay.
And one of their songs, Have You Seen My Sister Evelyn? The music sounds a little bit like it's from, I don't know, the 1940s or 50s or something. And then the lyrics are just a bit
out there.
Odd. Exactly.
Oh, let's have a listen to that. Okay.
It's quite amusing. So I like that sort of thing as well. And things that are beautiful, like Fleet Foxes, the harmonies that they have. I love those as well.
So should we listen to the Evelyn?
Sure.
What's that called?
Have You Met My Sister Evelyn?
Have You Met My Sister Evelyn? Let's have a listen to that.
Okay.
Have you seen my sister Evelyn? Dang, she's gone and wandered off again. I've been looking high and low. Where, oh, where'd my sister go? She's been known to spend some time with a sailor friend of mine. I called him up and what'd he say?
I ain't seen that girl today.
So if you see my sister Evelyn, tell that girl to hurry home again. Where, oh, where'd my sister Evelyn go? Is she with the doctor, or the plumber, or the dentist, or the handyman? Did she go to India, or Africa, or Wichita, or Pakistan? Did she go and join the Navy, or go completely crazy? Or is she playing a trick on me? Did she run off with the barber, the professor, or the banker, or the clergyman? Is it possible that she could be in Timbuktu, or Kathmandu, or Vegas, or Uzbekistan? Is she learning how to do the Chattanooga choo-choo? Oh golly, where could that girl be?
So yes, that was the Evelyn piece. So I think you can probably see why I think it's a little bit quirky and why it brings a smile to my face.
Funny, yeah. And when you're walking over the bridge at the end of the day, that's kind of what you need, just a bit of humour, a bit of fun, just to wind down. And,
exactly.
And music does that so quickly, I think, can do that so quickly for you.
Exactly.
What's your all-time favourite piece of music? If you were just had one Desert Island Discs, if you had one piece of music that would that you could take with you, what would that be?
That's really an impossible question.
It is, I know,
I think the first thing, it has to be an oldie for me, I think. And the first thing that comes to mind is maybe something by Gershwin, like Rhapsody in Blue or something along those lines.
That's got every spectre of emotion in it, hasn't it, as well? It's got the humour, but it's got the passion, it's got the romance.
Exactly. It's beautiful. But I think so there's a song that Glenn Miller did, which is Moonlight Serenade, and it's in the instrumental form. It's very simple, but it's so evocative, and I just find it's one of those pieces where even in its own right, it really just takes you away. And for me, it's also had a lot of personal significance in terms of, it's very tied to happiness and love and loss and poignancy and all sorts of things, and so I feel it all the way through my body every time I hear it. So
really
I think
connected to it. Yeah, well, let's have a listen to that now and really, I think, listen to it, and I'll be listening to it in a new way with your description of how connected you feel to that piece of music.
Sure.
Well, that was really evocative. Thank you, Charmaine. Let's come back to you and your music making. What are you working on at the moment through singing and the clarinet playing? What are your pieces that we hopefully will get to listen to in December at the end of term concert?
Clarinet, I'm at the moment, we're just taking a look at the various grade 6 exam pieces that are on offer, and I'm not playing the end of term concert. I'm still a little bit nervous about the whole
But you'll be singing.
I will be singing, and actually I will be playing clarinet in the band session.
Oh, great!
So that is one.
That's the
exactly
highlight, definitely, of concerts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been working through the grade 6 stuff. For the singing, we've been working on an Italian piece, the name of which escapes me now. Sorry, but Eleanor's really interesting the way that she teaches the lessons, because she'll take a piece and she'll introduce an element into it that is a bit different, or you'll do the same piece twice, but with a little bit of a different style. And one of the things that we've been playing around with this one is actually jazzing it up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And trying to effectively improvise and play around with the rhythm and the way that you sing what is otherwise quite a structured classical piece. And
that can be really challenging, having suddenly the freedom to improvise. Even within the improvisation, you often need a structure that might be hidden because it's sort of so free and playful, but within that parameter there is that structure in place so that you can riff off it. Is that what you've been sort of working on, having more riffs or more freedom with the melody?
Exactly. And it's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But one of the things that has been really important actually in terms of the music lessons, and actually in the band sessions as well, James and Eleanor are really good at getting this across, is it's okay not to get it right. It's okay for it to not work. It's okay to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process. And it's funny, it's one of those things that is so apparent and so important in music, but it's a lesson that we really can apply in all parts of life.
Definitely. There are no wrong notes. That's my mantra. There are no wrong notes, and you just have to react in a different way to what you're given, essentially, and that's how jazz works. You're just reacting all the time in a really agile way, to use a corporate word, but you have complete agility of thinking in order to take the tune to somewhere different, or to pass it over to a different player. It's all about leadership and following and listening, in essence. So yeah, like you say, that could be so much of learning in the work environment, just how you listen and how you react to other people, toning up, toning down.
Yeah, exactly, and it's something I have to I probably have to translate more into the wider parts of my life as well, to remember that, making the mistakes and doing things slightly in a way that you weren't expecting, or having things going in a direction that you weren't expecting, can just be an opportunity for something new and different.
Yeah, rather than seeing it as a mistake, seeing it as an opportunity to develop a new pathway. I mean, that's so ingrained in the arts. Samuel Beckett, fail better. Yes. Failure is embraced, and it's definitely where the learning happens. And you have to go through that in order to progress to the next level of whatever artistic venture you're struggling. Well, not struggling with, but you're trying to sort of strive for. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's a lesson in life.
Exactly.
But that's what the arts hopefully are bringing into corporate culture through not just music and offices, but you've got a huge art programme here at Travers Smith, and I think creativity is beginning to be really embraced and understood. In your experience of having music lessons, and also here at Travers Smith you have a really successful art programme, what would you say to companies who may be at the beginning of their understanding of what the arts could bring to their people and their office environment, the culture?
I would say that I think it can potentially be easy to underestimate the positive impacts of something like this, and it can be, introducing a scheme like this, it is a bit unusual. It's definitely not in the norm of your 9 to 5, the traditional structure of what a workday might look like. And I think it can be difficult sometimes for organisations to develop and to change. And I think that there is an element of change that comes with introducing something like this into the workforce.
Yeah.
And I would say not to dismiss it out of hand. I would say that the benefits that flow from it for the employees who partake, but also the wider workforce who then have to interact with those people.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Your colleagues who might not be having lessons, or music might not be important to them, but being aware of you having that time to have your clarinet lesson, singing lesson, that does, like you say, is a different way of interacting together.
It is, and it can, there is a potential tension there, because some people may not appreciate it, and they may not think it's important. And you can completely understand that. I think what I would say to that is, when I come back from those lessons, the time that I then have in the afternoon is often more effective, and I'm often more relaxed, and so the interactions that I have with people after my lessons might actually be
more
calmer
and more productive.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a huge business benefit in that, isn't there?
Exactly. So, I think it's a question of really just approaching things from a little bit of a different perspective, and valuing the fact that you have got people in your workforce who are whole people, and part of what makes them work well may be something like this, maybe the music, maybe a chance to use the bits of their brain that they're otherwise not using.
Yeah. Or in order to bring their whole self, well, that's a very overused term, but it is essentially that, their whole self to work.
Exactly. And so I would say give it a go. You don't. What have you got to lose?
Exactly, yeah, what have you got to lose? Well, let's thank you so much for chatting with me, Charmaine, today. I think it's really beautiful how you express your connection to music and the role that it plays for you in the week, and I really appreciate you opening up for me today. Let's finish by listening to you sing again. Shall we listen to Can't Help Loving That Man?
Sure. So this was a song that I actually performed here at Travers Smith for one of our concerts to showcase what music and officer students had been doing. And to your point earlier on about performing in front of colleagues, it was actually much more stressful than performing at the end of term concert.
So exposing, so vulnerable in a way. You're giving yourself, like you're talking about, your emotional self as well to your colleagues who might not have interacted with you in that personal way.
And I think it's allows them to see you from a different perspective as well. And particularly this song, which I chose sort of slightly last minute because it would be easy to do quickly. And then I listened to the lyrics, and the lyrics are so exposing about, doesn't matter what this man does to me, I'll still love him. Oh. You just sort of think, oh God, singing this in front of my colleagues.
Yeah, so brave of you. They would have loved it. I'm sure they did.
It was really good fun, actually. And I think it was good for people to get a chance to see what we're working on and to connect with us in a different way.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about in lots of ways, I think, and that's what the power that music can bring, especially in a work environment where it's so needed. Thank you, Charmaine. That was Charmaine Pollock singing a very heartfelt Can't Help Loving That Man. I really enjoyed chatting to Charmaine today about what music means to her and how much she values being able to make music during her busy working day at the law firm Travers Smith. Thank you for being with us and listening to the first episode in the 4th series of my Tessa Talks To podcast. Join me next year on January the 3rd, where I'll be chatting to another busy city worker about what music means to them.